guys, this is Jose, and today I have another Minecraft video for you guys. Excuse me. Had a video request from Katie the Karate Kid asking me to show how to make a hostile mob spawner and or killer. So I'm going to show you how. I'm going to really quickly make a creative mode world because it would just be easier to do it in creative mode, but I'm going to show you the two different types that I know how to build, or I know how to make. There's the underground and above ground. I don't know that there's really any other type possible, but if there is, feel free to let me know and I'll figure those out, and possibly add a video response to this showing you how. Let's see, let me adjust my video settings real quick. There we go, much better. So, I'm going to get started with the underground one, and yeah, once, well, I guess I'll go ahead and do this on video. I was thinking about cutting it, but I decided not to. I decided that instead, I'm just going to record it all, and with the magic of video editing, kind of speed it up. So I am not just messing around cutting this, or what I'm doing here, I'm not messing around, I actually need this space. So, for the underground version, what you need to do is figure out your current coordinates. Your Y coordinate is what's key. So we go to F3, you can see that as of right this moment, interesting, there's snow over there on those trees. It's not taiga biome, weird. But as of now, we are on level 65, which is the Y coordinate over here. And you see I'm running on a couple of mods, but none, it's just like a couple of game-changing things that I've made. Mods that I've made, like food and machetes and whatnot, so just kind of ignore those. It's not like I'm going to be really using them. But we're on level 65. Essentially, it's best to go down about 25 to 30 blocks where you dig your mob spawner. So I'm going to dig down to level... If I did 30, that would put me at... Or if I did 30 blocks, it would put me at level 35. Then any number, you have to subtract the number, so you have to figure out what number you want it to be. Subtract that number from your current coordinates, and then subtract 2 more, and I'll explain why in a moment. But for now, just go ahead and get started. You're going to want to kind of dig out a 2x2 hole, I guess, like this. And just clear out my hotbar so I don't accidentally place stuff. I'll keep this around. If we run into any ores you don't recognize, again, that's just part of my mod. You'll obviously not get all that much. Now, keep in mind that your spawner will become more and more effective as you go through and clear caves. Also, the bigger your spawner is, the better. Basically, what happens is when mobs spawn, they just try to pick a dark place for them to spawn in. And the bigger the dark place, the higher a chance. So, what usually happens is that you've got caves like these. They get kind of big, kind of lengthy, and they're like, well, why would I spawn anywhere else but in here? It's way better in here. So if this mob spawner ever seems slow, that's why. It's because you could probably afford to clear out some caves. So let me just get some stone and patch up this hole here. Now, that's perfect. So, I've dug down my 30 blocks and then 2 blocks lower than that. And the reason, I'll go ahead and explain now, the reason I did 2 blocks even lower is because you want the spawning pads, only the spawning pads, to be on that level, that 30 blocks or 20 blocks or however low you want it to be. But your spawning pads are going to be 2 blocks higher than your water canals. So you want to have it so that your spawning pads are on that level and not your water streams or your canals. Because if you have your canals on that level, your canals are going to be covered in water, and in case you did not know, hostile mobs or any mob cannot spawn on water. So I'm going to be building a pretty small version here. It's going to be 4 8x8 spawning pads. I've built one once that's still together. It's on my server. and it has 36 8x8 spawning pads, and it is huge, and it was a pain to do. It took all of a day to do. But yeah, so what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to make these water canals here, and they're going to need to be 4 blocks tall. When you see it all said and done, it'll make more sense. But they need to be 4 blocks tall, 2 blocks wide, and 7 blocks long. So it's 4, 5. So here's 6 blocks, and here's your 7. So you're going to need to do this on all 4 sides. It's not really that thrilling or anything, but it works. Like I said, this is only the underground version for now. I do recommend these because you can gain lots of resources, and you can actually put them really low if you wanted to. Now just make sure your caves are lit up really well, otherwise you're going to run into inefficiency. Basically, it's not going to work as well as you'd want it to. But you can put it on level 10, level 12, so that as you're digging out stuff, you get diamond and other really good resources that you may need, and it'll still work. It'll work just fine, actually, but just be careful, because unless you've cleared out a lot of caves, like if it's a map that you've been using for a while, and are quite familiar with, otherwise you're going to have kind of a hard time. Ooh, got mixed around there. So it looks like we're running into a cave. Now this is unfortunate, but it happens. So I'm also going to have to show you how to fix this up and how to kind of make it a little better. And I think I'm playing on peaceful right now just to keep the mobs all out of my way. But you'll see soon enough after I turn all the mobs on how well it works. So what you need to do is, if you're doing this legitimately, I recommend just for the moment that you do this to all corners. On the corner, right here on this second block, punch out a hole on it. This way, you can actually, when you dig all the way up, you can actually get up here. Because you're going to need to do something along these lines. Because essentially what you want, when it's all said and done, is you want it so that mobs can't get back on the spawning pads once they've fallen into the water. Which is a flaw in the design I'll show you later above ground, is that every time I used to do one, I didn't do that. They were only, the water canals were only 1 block lower, so while it always worked really good for me anyways, it works better if you have a 2 block tall water canal, because it will make it so that mobs can't get out later. Just a simple tip that might be useful as well, as far as mob activity, I suppose, is that spiders, as you know, or might know, should know, climb walls. But they only climb walls when they're aggroed. And in case you didn't know what aggro means is like when they're kind of like aiming or after you, like creepers. They don't aggro in creative mode. Then mobs don't mess with you until you mess with them. That means that they don't get aggro until you punch one. Whatever. So what we're going to do now is we're going to just kind of clear out these 8x8 spawning pads. Usually when you do 4, like I'm doing here, it only takes about 20 or 30 minutes to do this part, if that. I've done it in less time. It just, at first, if you have like a really messed up spawning pad like I do here, where it's completely open and whatnot, that's what takes a really long time. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm just gonna kind of light up this cave here, because that would definitely cause a few problems. But keep in mind that if you don't want to do anything with your caves or whatever, if you don't want to, light any up or whatever, that's just fine. Just remember that you will, you won't have as as effective of a spawner as you want, probably. But if you make a really big one, and take the time to make a really, really big one, you're going to have one that's just as effective as the next one, which has one with all the caves cleared up. Sorry about the there. I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to fix this up. It's a little messed up or whatever. So, I'm probably not going to end up fast forwarding this because I'm kind of sharing some pretty useful information. And right now I can't really explain to you how I'm figuring out all this digging stuff because I wouldn't be able to make much sense of it until I was done and could show you where half of it's not being eaten alive by a cave like these two over here are. But basically, I don't know if you remember, before I started digging these out, we stopped here, so the wall looked something like this. What I did was I dug this out, because this gives it 2 more little spaces, or actually 8 when you're done. It gives you 8 more little spaces for mobs to spawn in. So it kind of helps you out there, plus it actually makes it 8 by 8 instead of 7 by 7. I think that would change 7 by 7. Yeah, that changes it from 7 by 7 to 8 by 8, which makes it just a little bit more effective, plus, you have those extra 8 spawning spots for tall mobs. Spiders spawn in spiders have really picky spawning, so good luck getting them to specifically not spawn in or specifically spawn in. Because contrary to common thinking, I guess, spiders only spawn in, for some reason I don't understand this, spiders are 1 block tall, but they only spawn in 2 block tall areas. I know this because I built a floating spawner, because I had 2 different spawners. I had a floating spawner that was like 2 blocks tall on the inside, and then I had one that was 1 block tall on the inside, hoping to get a separate spider spawner. And turns out that was not the case. I got only spiders spawning in my 2 block tall, and nothing spawned in the 1 block. Well, actually, some stuff spawned in the parts of the 1 block tall where it had to inevitably become 2 blocks tall. But enough with my blabbering. I'm just kind of patching up this spawner. You want it to be 2 blocks tall, otherwise you're going to have endermen spawning in because they only spawn in 3 block tall areas. And once you have endermen spawning in, they're going to fall off into the water and teleport everywhere, and thus you're going to have endermen everywhere. Unideally, they'll be in your house, they'll be anywhere. So that's a downside, but it's not really a big deal, just less work you'll have to do, which is obviously a good thing. If you do want them everywhere, that's fine. You'll see. But what I would recommend, if you really need like ender pearls or whatever, is I would recommend that you make a separate spawner that's 3 blocks tall, that has no water, and it's a little bit smaller. That way, first of all, not all of your mobs are going to spawn in there, just hopefully and specifically your endermen. And it gives them a higher chance of falling in without the use of water, so you can pretty much ignore the water part. But you are going to, unfortunately, have to make it an above-ground spawner, which will be a later tutorial. Or, not later tutorial, it'll be a later part of this video. So now we are finished with our 4 8x8 spawning pads, and here is time for the not so fun part. This is the pretty annoying part actually, and it's the water and signs part. This is called a mob evader, and it's pretty useful actually, but it's also annoying. So if you did what I recommended and you cut out just these little what are now corners, fill in 2 of them. Doesn't matter which 2, but leave 2 of them open and 2 of them closed. What you want to do now is you want to get your signs, and you're going to need about 2 stacks and 16, I think is how many I use, maybe 2 stacks and 12. You're going to need to put your signs on like this. In case you didn't know, signs do affect water flow. You need to put your signs kind of like this, where you put one here along the outside, and one here and here on the inside, And then on the edge of the sign, doesn't matter which way you're facing, I just prefer facing this way. Right click with your sign and it'll place it on there like that, kind of doing a wing to a sense. So I'm going to do the same exact thing here. I prefer not having letters on mine, but it won't hurt. So there's that. You're going to need to do something kind of like the same thing here on these tall ones that don't have the block cut out, but you're going to need to do it like this without anything down here. Just like this, where you use 3 signs and they need to be facing the opposite way. Basically what you want is you want one kind of a wing, I guess, in only one wing sticking out for each canal. So there needs to be one here and one here on the opposite sides. You can't do one here and then have this one facing. You can't do this, basically. You have to have it like this. And then same here, you need to do this and then this. What you can't do is you cannot do this and this. That doesn't work. That'll mess up your water flows. Which is what these signs are here to do, is control those water flows so that everything works better for you. So now, if you want to test and make sure you did everything right with the sign madness here, if I didn't explain it well, I do apologize, but it's kind of frustrating to explain something that you're kind of just used to doing. It's not necessarily frustrating, just difficult. But if you did it right, you're supposed to be able to place a block here, and it only spreads out these 2 blocks, or this 2x2 area. Same here, you do this. This is all you need right here in the middle as far as water goes. Now, go to the ends of your water, or of your canals here, and put water here, and here. This is why you made these 7 long. If you made it 8 long, it wouldn't reach this far, and it would curve up and kind of help push mobs in. So I'm gonna just go through and do this on all 4 canals. Sorry if it starts to get dark, I'm gonna try to get out of here as quickly as possible. But basically what this is doing is mobs are going to come in. Whenever mobs contact water, they automatically press down. They basically do the same thing as what we would do holding down the spacebar. So that when they're in water, they jump like this. What happens is they come to this area here, and then they start to swim up like this. And once we're all said and done, holding down the spacebar with our mob evader will get them all the way to the surface without dropping. So this is why you require so many signs. You wouldn't necessarily need so many signs if you didn't do it the way I'm doing it. I'm sure there are ways to do it with less signs, but this is the way that I'm familiar with doing it. It's the way that I know works. So it's the way that I do it. I'm trying to do this out here. What you need to do is, even though you did have to break this out here, all this stuff out, like you have to, there's no way around it. What you need to do is fill it back in like this so that it's kind of back into. Now what you need to do is start the actual mob elevator and shut it full screen mode, because my mouse actually is perfectly aligned when I'm not in full screen mode with the OK button, so it makes it easier. Okay, good, I understand. Sorry about that, for some reason the F12 kind of threw it off, but or the F11 threw it off, but it didn't. So I'm going to get that crap out of my way now. So if I right click here, you can see it's perfectly aligned with the done button, but basically what you're going to do is, starting with these 2, the ones that you put on the top, starting with these 2, you're going to go kind of like a crisscross like this, all the way up on one side, and then repeat all the way up on the other side. Sorry if it is a little bit dark, not much I can do about it. I'm playing on the highest lightness or brightness setting possible. So we're going to go all the way up and then swim down or fall down and go all the way up on this side as well. Oops. Again, I'm not guaranteeing anything out of this particular spawner, because I didn't clear out any caves. I just made a new world and got started. If you do the same, it's probably not going to be all that great unless you make a really big one where it gives mobs a really high chance of spawning in your spawner. So now that you've done your signs all the way up, and it's not as easy unless you can fly. Get that FPS out of the way, sorry about that. Once you've done that, you need to put water in these little spots here on both sides. Now what this is going to do is, you can see now the water is doing the crisscross effect as well. I recommend doing one side at a time, however, because otherwise you'll get confused where you left off. And if you have an area where you forgot to put a water bucket or a water block there, it's going to completely mess up and it's going to be very difficult to notice. So this is the mob evader part of it. It's really boring, but it's really a pain in the bum to do. It requires about 2 or 3 stacks of logs to make enough signs for all of this, and I usually make 10 buckets when I'm doing this, just so I don't have to go down, up and down, all that often. Now the issue I'm having here is just that it's starting to, the water's freezing over on me, which is not a big deal. I'm just going to put blocks here, way above it, and now the water will not freeze again. In case you didn't know that in snow biomes, water freezes unless there's a block above it somewhere. I could go up 40 or 50 blocks up to Skybox, put the 2x2 blocks I needed, and it would work fine. So once you've gotten this far, I recommend using glass for this part. You don't have to. You can use whatever you feel like, but glass is what I recommend. And then I use glass and glowstone just because it kind of looks good together, in my opinion. But what you do is you need to put a ring of a solid, I usually do a solid block, but actually I'm going to do glass just because I'm not doing this legit. Normally I do this legit and it just sucks to make all this glass. It usually takes about a stack of glass to do this part, depending on how wasteful or conservative you are. But what you need to do is you need to kind of, what you want is 2 8x8 or 2x2 little circles here, or squares here, but one of them, or this one, the one that doesn't have the water in it yet, needs to have a spot open here, and this is where all your drops are going to come out. You can put it on either side, it doesn't matter, but yeah, that's basically pretty important. And I recommend you have a pressure plate or a sign to put here, and you need to put down a source block there. Like so. And now, whenever a drop comes by, for example these torches, it will fall in and head right here. And I usually would recommend building like my house around here, kind of, and like this being part of the wall. So what I'm going to do now is, let's see, I'm going to build another block above it. You can leave this only one block because your drops will still fit through it, and you actually need it to be like that, otherwise you won't be able to do it the correct way, or the essentially recommended way. I'm going to replace that with a solid block just because the glass gives off a lighting bug. And I'm going to make this block tall, like so. You're also going to need lava for this design. I've made a couple of them, or I've made one actually, that just used a drowning method, and that one was such a big pain in the butt I'd rather not show you how because I barely remember how I did it. But what you want to do is just kind of extend this up that one extra block that you've now added, add your water, and now put 2 blocks of water here and here, so it pushes this way. Now because of the fail that is Minecraft water, it will just stop there. So what you need to do is you need to go ahead and add your signs here, 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 and here. This is basically going to hold up the lava that we're going to add later, and keep the lava from just falling into the water and turning into cobblestone or obsidian, I don't remember which. So later on, we're going to be putting a sign here and here as well to keep it from spilling out. But for now, in order to fix this failure of water, make sure you have these signs here, otherwise it'll spill all out and mess up. But just go ahead and place down this block of water here, and that extends it out right where we need it to be. Now, go ahead and add your sign here, and another one here, and put your lava here. Now, you only technically need one bucket. You see it spreads all across there. I prefer using all 4 buckets because it makes it just still and whatnot. But yeah. Now, here's the key. You need to use solid blocks above here. Otherwise, even though this bug is supposedly been fixed, I've been a victim of it many times. Otherwise, if you log out and log back in, sometimes they will glitch through the glass. I usually let me change this to what I prefer, which is a sandstone slab. So I usually do something like this. I think it looks better, but that's just me. And then, oops. That. Last but not least, go down there and get all your torches back. If you didn't already do this, the only reason I didn't already do it was because I just wanted to be able to have you guys see for as long as possible. And if I were you, I would make it dark as soon as you're done, because mobs will only spawn from about 25 blocks away from you. Hence the location from the distance of this, from the surface that this is. About 25 to 30 blocks away from you is when they will start to spawn, and yeah, that's what's preferred. So now that this is finished, we can put a lid on it, and I'm going to go into a higher difficulty. I'm going to stand around for a little while. I'm going to remove all these unnecessary blocks here, and go ahead and get started on our other spawner. So this spawner is going to be a floating spawner. I haven't done one of these in a long time. I'm just going to build up. Again, you want to do it about that many blocks. About the 30 blocks, 30 blocks. I'm just going to do it a little closer to make it a little less difficult. Now, for me, since I'm in creative mode, I'm just doing this one block, so that's what all that extra block stuff down there was. So what you're going to need to do is going to have your 2x2 hole here. Again, this is where all mobs, spiders, skeletons, etc. are going to fall down into their death. Oh. Well, there you go. It's already working. Glad I heard that. Thank you, chicken. Your eggs are much appreciated. So you can see that's already working, and I didn't even clear out any caves. And now what you're going to need to do is these water canals are going to need to be 8 long. You're going to have your 4 water canals meeting at this point again. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So now that's done, you've got this kind of weird T-shaped thing. Now, I prefer, see, we're getting pretty decent drops here, actually. Which is not a bad thing. And it's not often, but thinking about the fact that you don't have to risk your life making this, or doing that, it's pretty awesome. So now what I do is I add this. Basically, it's going to be, you're going to have 8x2 coming out this way, and then 4x4 on the inside here, on all 4. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. What this is going to do is help us out with the water flows kind of pushing towards the center, where that 2x2 pole is. So we do this. Perfect. So now that that's done, this is basically an outline of everything. Uh-oh. Why are you hanging out here? I must not have made that the right tallness somewhere. Sometimes that happens, where I'll just kind of do something too fast. So, that's what happens, I guess. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to start working on the border, and it's just going to need to come out one, and sort of outline everything. Make sure you do it like this, otherwise you're not going to be able to fit in your water streams in the right place, and water will start pouring down your little 2x2 hole there, and make a mess down below. The only reason I don't like these is because they're very resource intensive. I think they're resource consumptuous, I guess. They use up a lot of your resources. But if you've been, for perhaps doing a mine shaft, and you have, a large chest of cobblestone, this is a great thing to do with that cobblestone. It doesn't have to be a large chest's worth. It's usually about 7 or 8 stacks of cobblestone. But you end up with this shape. Now you can see where the water's going to go. I'm going to go ahead and add it. Oops. Oh crap. I'm actually not going to go ahead and add it. I'm going to finish later. What you need to do now is to fill all this stuff in. So you're going to have this area here, where these things that I'm filling in here, this area I'm filling in here, is going to be the spawning pads for everything. So that's where mobs are going to spawn, is on those pads. I'm going to go ahead and light it up to keep them from spawning in now. That's not ideal. Oops. So sorry if it's a little dark, I don't think it is, but I know on screen is different from on YouTube as far as lightness goes. But you can kind of see where these spawning pads are going to be now, and this is why I don't really like this, is because it's very unclear as far as actually building one yourself. This is kind of like Captain Sparkles, except I've modified it a little bit so it's better, in my opinion, than Captain Sparkles from the it was the Skyblock Survival series that he did it. This is great, like, as far as if you need to save on, or if there's nothing beneath you to sort of use, but for digging out one. But I still prefer digging one out because these are kind of atrocious in my opinion, and not only are they kind of atrocious, but they are going to leave a very, very, very big shadow beneath you, as you can already see kind of starting. So now that that's done, we're going to just kind of get started on the wall. This is going to be fully enclosed, that way it works day and nighttime. And I do always, whenever I do these, I could go out one more, but I usually just leave it like that. Sure, you lose 8 spawning spaces, but you save so much cobblestone, or whatever material you're building with. Because this takes up a lot. I'm not kidding. So I know this is pretty boring, but this is kind of how it is. This video's boringness is kind of how it is when you do one yourself, but the result is worth it. if you do one of these, or first of all, I know I was proud when I built my first one, and I was even more proud when I figured out how to do one underground, because although the mob evader design was not mine, the actual spawning pad design was, which made me really proud. So yeah, and as always, we're going to make this only 2 blocks tall to avoid mobs that we don't want in here from spawning. So I'm just gonna kind of do it like this. I have to admit, it does look better if you use a different material like wood to do these, but I just never thought of doing the wood because I've done one out of wood and it looked really good. It just took a long time to get all the wood, but whatever. Having a mod like Tree Capitator would really help if you did one out of wood. It'd be way quicker than actually gathering cobblestone. Unless there's some sort of a magical way to get a cobblestone generator that automatically mined it for you. I know there's ways to make automatic cobblestone generators using pistons where it kind of spits it out, and after you break the end cobblestone, it pushes another one your way to avoid losing any cobblestone. You could do that, but I just, what's the point? By the time you're building that, you would have done as much work as you would have just getting the cobblestone yourself. So, one big thing that a lot of people tend to forget is that, I've had people build, I know people who have built the same thing, I've had friends who have done it on my server and whatever. They always forget to put torches on the top of this thing. That's actually an even better spawning place than this. Now, of course, if you ever wanted to, you could make this multiple stories tall and have multiple of the same exact thing here. You could do that. I've done many of them that were 3 or 4 stories tall. The higher they get, or the more stories, the more efficient. But again, the number one factor of efficiency is actually your like just having caves lit up. Is this uneven? No, it just looked uneven from the angle I was at, I guess. So definitely try to spam the top of this place with torches, otherwise you're going to have unwanted spawning, basically. So now, once you're in here, this is kind of how it's going to look. Your spawning pads are not that big, keep that in mind. But you're going to want to put your same 2 water here, 2 water blocks here, which will not freeze over now. Oops, we don't have a water block there. 2 water blocks here. I know it's getting really dark and I do apologize, but not much I can do about it. Let me go ahead and pass the torch down to show you this part though. Now, you've got these 4 corners. On each of these 4 corners, on the very last corner piece, you want to put in another water block there. Now what you can see is happening is you're having mobs that are going to walk in from any angle and they're all going to get pushed right here in the middle. Oh, that was from water. I'm just trying to figure out what the heck that was before. So, although you can't really see it, I'm going to be taking care of those corners now, and it is done. So what I'm going to do now is leave and see which one gets us more. Right now, neither one of them are doing really fantastically, but I didn't expect that at all. Wow, that really did mess up a lot of stuff, actually. The only other downside of this is, or the floating design, is that unless you do like a pillar up and down, or a pillar up, which is really tedious, and that's where you actually waste a lot of your materials. Unless you do a pillar going up and down, first of all, your mobs are going to fall down and scare the living crap out of you. Or at least I know it's the case with me. And as well as that, they are also going to kind of not spawn as much during the daytime because the light will be able to get in that little hole pretty easily. And kind of not really ruin it, I guess, but mess it up. The point of the spawning is not as ideal. Is that? I didn't think that was actually supposed to happen. Maybe that's... yeah. I don't know if that's an update or if that's a screw up in my mod made it so that when snow melts, it drops snowballs. I thought that was kind of weird that it dropped all those snowballs when the water fell down. I'm not complaining, but it's strange. Still waiting for something to spawn in here. Oh, there we go. There's a zombie. So what will happen is when I push this zombie in, what happens is, unfortunately, he can't get out because there's only one block top. But he falls down to his death. So these are the two different designs. You have the underground and above ground. So you can see the above ground is pretty massive, although it doesn't have as big spawning pads, and it has a really big footprint, unfortunately. Whereas the underground one is pretty nice, and yeah. Oh, one more thing that I just now noticed. Normally, when you have spiders coming in this version, because of the killer design, or the killing design I have, it is, spiders will come down and you'll lose all the drops, because they can kind of, it's not really levitate, but you know what I mean, they can climb walls, so they'll kind of like climb up it, and then all your drops get lost by the lava. If you do all 4 source blocks, so it's like a 2x2 of lava, that's completely solid, I notice you don't lose your drops, because on the server that's how it is, as well as on here I did that, and you see I opened up a crafting table, so you can show you my inventory. You can see I got some string, so that's pretty neat. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Sorry it was very, very long, but doing these is not exactly a quick and easy process. Let's see if we've got anything else. Let me know if you want any other tutorials. I'm hoping to upload a how to make a mod tutorial, because I made many mods, and you can see in my creative mode inventory some of them that I've remade, like the bone torches and the peaceful pack I'm working on, because they were not updated. I've also made machetes and a new set of kind of tools and whatnot, and some more new food. I've actually added even more food since this version I'm running here. It's just not, basically I haven't exported it for using in your own Minecraft.jar, but if you want a tutorial, let me know. I will definitely make one. I've already actually got some recorded. I just haven't uploaded them yet because I don't know if it's really going to be worth it or not. But if you guys would like to see that, I'll be more than happy to upload it. So yeah, and this is, by the way, another downside, is it's always raining around this area. Let's see. But yeah, I guess I'll see you guys next time. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to leave a like. If this really helped you out, favorites are really appreciated. And let's go check out the hostile mob spawner down here really quickly and see how it's doing. See if I've left out a couple of spots that are unfortunately 3 blocks tall, because it seems as if I have. I'm still trying to figure out where they're going. It's not in my spawner. Whatever. Well, it doesn't matter. I'll see you guys next time.